What's up guys, this is Chris here, and today we are going to be answering a question I get all the time. What home defense gun should I get if I only have $300? Now, with things being as crazy as they are and the likelihood of home invasions and burglaries going up and up, get out of my house, nutsack! I really do believe the times now more than ever warrant having a quality home defense gun. And people have less money than ever, so they're looking for firearms that are affordable, that still can pack a punch, and they can still defend you, that can be used by multiple people. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to go over a few of the most popular platforms for home defense and try to find the right one for you under 300 bucks. Now, I know 300 bucks is a low mark, and there aren't a huge amount of very good guns under that price point, but there certainly are some. And since we've reviewed almost every gun on the internet, I actually have a lot of trigger time on firearms under $300, and there are a couple options available that I would absolutely recommend for that price point. So before we get into that though, I do want to mention my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys very much. It's because of you guys we have the guns and ammo on the channel, so we really appreciate you. And if you want to support the channel, it's the best way to do it. Just go to the link in the description below. I also want to mention a local shelter in Ames, Iowa. It's the YSS. Those kids could really use your help, so please go down there and donate to those kids. Now, when you're getting into platforms under $300, you have to consider what you are going to sacrifice, because the world's best guns aren't going to be under $300, so you're gonna have to figure out what's right for you. Now, as far as the available platforms for home defense, let's take a look at them quick. Well, first we have the rifle, usually a semi-automatic intermediate cartridge like the AR-15 or the AK-47, or variations like the MCX, and on it goes. However, those are not going to be available to you at the price of under $300. And the reason for that isn't because they aren't available, it's because they aren't going to be reliable. Every semi-automatic rifle that we've ever tested under $300 comes with a lot of issues. Usually those are parts quality, usually those are reliability, durability issues. And for me personally, I preface reliability above all else when it comes to home defense, because it doesn't matter how well it shoots, doesn't matter what caliber it is, if the gun doesn't go off. So under $300, in my opinion, semi-automatic rifles are off the table. The second thing that a lot of people look at are going to be lever action rifles. Very multi-purpose, can be used for self-defense in almost every state, can be used for hunting, good ranch rifle. However, again, under the $300 price point, lever actions are just not going to be available to you. Now, PCCs, there are a few. The old X-Star was under $300, and there are a couple of options that are around the $400 price point, but under $300, again, not something super reliable and something you can depend on. However, there are other options, including shotguns and pistols. Now, as far as pistols go, we're going to be talking about semi-automatic pistols, because honestly, quality revolvers are very rare to find under $300 as well. But luckily for you, in my opinion, semi-automatic pistols are superior for home defense for most people than revolvers anyway. And when we're getting into semi-automatic handguns, I do feel like they are probably going to be a niche where most people fit in, so I imagine we'll talk about those first. Now, the reason why people get a semi-automatic handgun for self-defense or home defense in general is because they are very useful in multiple areas. You can buy a 9mm handgun, for example, and you can carry it during the day, protect yourself out in public, and then at night you can use that same handgun as a nightstand gun or a home defense gun, and you can use that to protect yourself while you sleep and while your family sleeps. Another great thing about handguns is that they're not incredibly size dependent. You can get a very large rifle and it won't fit the smaller people in your house, whereas a 9mm handgun can usually be shot by smaller statured shooters, which is helpful considering you're not going to be home every time to protect your wife or your husband or whoever, and sometimes other people in the house may need to use the gun, so it's good to have that. Now, the reason why I say the 9mm handgun is because 380 is barely enough to meet the FBI requirements. It's usually not used in self-defense scenarios unless you can avoid it, because it is a little bit underpowered, and 9mm is the standard for handgun cartridges in the United States, and almost every handgun is made in 9mm. That's because of the higher capacity that you get, the lower recoil you get, the easier it is to hit your target because there's less anticipation of recoil, and especially for newer shooters, the lower recoil is less intimidating and it gets you on the gun, and the more you practice it, the better you're going to be with it. If you're an absolute expert marksman with a 9mm and you suck at shooting with a 12 gauge, I'd rather have the 9. Now, as far as 9mm pistols go, there are a few that I could recommend under the $300 price point, but just one that I absolutely will because I have thousands of rounds on it. And I think the gun that I would recommend the most for home defense under $300, if you're looking for a handgun, is going to be the CZ P10F. Now, the P10F is arguably the most underrated handgun in the pistol world. It is made by a quality manufacturer like CZ that is notorious for not only reliability, durability, but pretty good quality control as a whole, and I feel like this is one of their crowning achievements. Sort of a Glock clone. Now, this is a 4.5-inch 9mm pistol with a very good trigger, a polymer frame, and a striker fired action. And the reason why that's important, and the reason why polymer frame pistols are so prevalent in society today, is they're affordable to make, they are lightweight, so you can use them in lots of different uses, and the striker fired action is not only reliable, and you can count on it time after time, but it has the same trigger pull over and over again, so it is good for new shooters. If you pull the trigger on the first shot, it is going to be the same trigger pull as the second and third, unlike a double single action gun. Now, this gun has no safety on it, and I know for newer shooters that's not always the best because you guys usually feel more comfortable with the safety. However, without a safety, there is less to go wrong as well. If you leave your safety on and try to pull the trigger and nothing happens and that guy shoots you, well, that's not so good. With a striker fired action like this, for example, if you were to leave it on the nightstand or if you were to leave it in your safe with a magazine loaded or next to it, you can load it very quickly, make ready, and you don't have to worry about bumbling with any safeties or decockers in the middle of the night. Simple is almost always better, especially when you're scared. When you're scared and you can't think, point and click is usually the best option. Now, as far as the CZ P10 series, why did I choose this? Well, it is a premium gun from a premium manufacturer that often is under $300 that carries with it a 19+1 round magazine capacity, which is more than enough for home defense, which is very good. The grip is very comfortable. The recoil impulse is low. The trigger is excellent, as I've mentioned before. Not only is it the same trigger pull every time, but this trigger pull is probably twice as good as your average Glock. Very light trigger pull when you fire it the first time, and then the reset is very short as well, allowing you faster follow-up shots. The trigger guard is very big, and again, unlike the Glock, we have a very good undercut here, and a lot of times people complain about the undercut of Glocks when they shoot them for the first time because it hurts their little knuckle. Now, on top of that, if you want to add a light here, I would definitely recommend the TLR1. Now, the TLR1 is around $100 light, and you could put that weapon light on this gun, and you could have a $400 home defense setup that would be extremely formidable. If you know how to shoot this and you have 20+ rounds of 9mm with a light attached to it, solid sights and a good trigger, you can certainly make that work. Now, the benefit of the P10F is it's very lightweight at about 28 ounces. So if you bought this as your home defense gun and you felt the need to carry it, you definitely could. Now, full-size guns aren't the best for concealed carry, but they are pretty good. Now, if you're looking for something that can flex into carry a little bit more, but you still want to use it for home defense, I would recommend the P10F's little brother, the P10C. Now, this is the compact version of the P10F. This has a 4-inch barrel with a 15-round magazine capacity, although the larger magazines from the F can be used as well, which is very nice. Now, it just has a slightly smaller grip, but the exact same features, trigger, and feel, and it comes in at that same price of around $300 to $400, allowing you to get a very, very good do-it-all firearm that can be used for home defense, concealed carry, and anything else you'd want to use a handgun for. Many people shoot competition with the P10F because of the recoil impulse and the trigger, so you could do pretty much anything you wanted with this $300 package right here. Now, there are some shortcomings to having a handgun for self-defense, and that's going to be ease of use, that's going to be points of contact, that's going to be power, and a lot of times that's going to be intimidation factor. All right, now 9mm handguns do have limited range, but the average house is no more than 7 yards. So the distance you're going to be engaging in home defense is not really that far, but accuracy is still paramount. It's difficult to get shots with a handgun over a shoulder-fired weapon because you only have 2 points of contact. So I would consider the pistol an expert's weapon over something like a rifle or a shotgun because it takes more practice to be good. Honestly, I think if you've looked at any of Active Self-Protection's videos, there's very few altercations that a handgun can't solve, to be honest with you. Usually when the rounds go off, people get the fuck out of your house. However, if you are looking for a little bit more for even a little bit less money, I would recommend the Mossberg 88.
Help!
think it works. Now the Maverick 88 is probably the most reliable budget shotgun on the market, and I have a lot of history with the Maverick 88 going back to my college days. One of the first pump shotguns I ever purchased was a Maverick 88 with a pistol grip. Now I definitely wouldn't recommend the pistol grip, however it was a fun gun to shoot. I used to shoot it one-handed as trick shots. I won't be doing that anymore with my old man arthritis, but the Maverick 88 is still the same reliable, durable gun that I got from a pawn shop for under $100 in 2007, and today you can still find them from around $200 to $300. Now what you get over a handgun with something like a 12 gauge is you get bite stopping power immediately. If you look at the ER visits on 12 gauge, it's like 90% are lethal with a 12 gauge round to the midsection. And the reason for that is because you get about 9 pellets out of your average double-aught buckshot load, and they're moving around the same speed or even a little more than a 9mm round. So you get almost 10 times the capability of a 9mm handgun in a single round. Now that power comes with some drawbacks, which number 1 is going to be recoil, and number 2 is going to be upper body strength to hold the gun up for long periods of time. And on top of that, it is a large gun, so it means taking corners with it is going to be more difficult. Now, if you're going around structures and you have a hard time getting through, 2 ways that you could do that. In my personal opinion, again, not tactical advice, just giving some suggestions. 1, you can go down at your hip here. And the idea behind this is it keeps it in your bread basket here, and it keeps it in your workplace, and you feel strong, and in case somebody grabs that barrel, you can either yank it back or you can give them a little bit, which isn't too bad of an idea. Now the second thing a lot of people do is short stock over their shoulder like that. Now me personally, I've had a lot of shoulder problems in my life, and I can't personally fire a shotgun like that anymore, so I often use the low ready. However, personally, if I was going to go in a place where I had to be quick and quiet and I was cramped, I would probably just try to give myself some space and have a better home defense plan than going through a small area with a really big gun just because of my shoulder issues. But short stocking definitely can be done. But if you can't do that and you have to go through that, you can always go down at the low ready like this. And if you have to, you can come up immediately. Now, one thing you have to remember with long guns for home defense is high and low. Now, I'm not suggesting you use one or the other. I'm suggesting that you use whichever one is good for the situation. For example, if you're in an apartment, let's say, and you have 4 or 5 floors of people above you, this is safe on the range, having it high port like this. However, inside a structure where there's a shitload of people above you, this is not that safe. So we're gonna want a low port in that case. We're gonna walk around with the gun pointed at the floor if there's a bunch of people above me. Conversely, if I'm on a roof, or I'm on the 2nd story or something like that, and there's a bunch of people below me, I'm gonna want a high port. Having the gun in a safe position is just that. It's not institutionalized thinking, it's adapting for whatever situation that you're in. I know everybody talks about CQB when it comes to home defense, but the reality is if you can, you should have a home defense plan in place that allows you to hunker down in a room, call 911, and wait. However, that's just not realistic for most people. Most people have kids in the house. Most people are gonna wanna see if it's a threat to begin with. Personally, me, if I hear a big bump in the middle of the night and my dogs bark, I do in fact go down the stairs to see what's going on, because 19 times out of 20, it's a fucking raccoon eating out of my trash, and I want to see what it is before I call 911. So if you feel like it's going to be more likely for you to move around structures, I would A, maybe go with the handgun. B, I would probably train with the shotgun and make sure you're good at short stroking, make sure you're good at keeping the gun under your hip, and make sure you're good at a little bit of combatives in case somebody may grab that barrel. That being said, the upsides to a shotgun are tremendous, and that's why a shotgun has been used for home defense literally since the Civil War. I mean, they deliver a huge amount of energy every single shot. They pack a good capacity. This one here is 7+1 of 12 gauge. Now I know 7+1 doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're shooting 9 projectiles at every single shot, it actually is more than you might imagine. The average self-defense altercation with a shotgun is 1 to 2 rounds, so having 7, 8, or even 9 rounds with an extra 5 or 6 on the side, in my personal opinion, is more than enough. Now, the shotgun is easy to use if you are good at it, but it is easy to fuck up if you are not. Most paramount part about running a shotgun for home defense is being able to operate the controls. Knowing when your safety is on or off, because you will have a cross bolt safety or the back safety on the Mossbergs, the tang safety there. And the most important thing you're gonna have to do is be able to load the gun and be able to operate the pump, because you can make the gun malfunction if you don't know how to use it. So if you're gonna fire the gun, we pop it off safety, fire the gun, And when we rack the gun, all the way back, all the way forward. If you were using a pump shotgun, always remember all the way to the rear, all the way to the front, and make sure you don't short stroke the shotgun or you will cause a malfunction. And that in lies some of the negative with the shotgun, where if you have newer shooters or smaller stature shooters, it adds a little bit more difficulty using the gun. Out. Now, short stroked it there, all the way out, all the way in. That's kind of what we talked about. Now, as far as the shotgun goes, I think if you can handle it, in my personal opinion, a superior home defense weapon to a handgun. On top of that, if you want to go duck hunting, if you want to go bird hunting, if you want to go deer hunting, anything like that, a Mossberg 88 can also do that. Now, I know people will say, yes, you got to get a rifled slug barrel for deer, but honestly, I grew up poor as shit, and I shot a whole bunch of deer with a smoothbore shotgun. All you have to do is buy some rifled slugs, practice on some 2-liter bottles, and go to work. Now, as far as me growing up on a pump action shotgun, I feel incredibly comfortable with this platform. And if this was the only gun I had in my house for self-defense, even though it's $300 or less, I would feel extremely confident. Personally, me, I would add a shot shell holder on the side, some Velcro tape here, and one of those shotgun strips of 5 shells, and then I would probably also add some sort of light on the end. Now, if you don't want to pay a lot, I mean, honestly, you could duct tape a light to it, or you could just use a light switch. It's free.
Are there any instances where you wouldn't want the shotgun?
There are a lot of instances where you might not want the shotgun. First off, if you live in an apartment, buckshot is going to go through a lot of walls. So the argument for that is that buy a round that doesn't penetrate walls, but those don't really exist, because if they don't penetrate walls, they don't penetrate people all that well either. And usually the solution for over penetration is just knowing where you can shoot and picking your battles. It's your house after all. You pick the strong point, you pick where the engagement takes place. Maybe don't pick one where you're pointed at 7 neighbors and you might be better off. Now, the second reason why you might not want a shotgun is recoil. Most normal people, when they fire a 12 gauge with buckshot for the first time, they can't fucking believe how much recoil is in it. And a lot of that is technique. Once you get the technique down, once you feel comfortable with the gun, and once you feel confident that you could put those rounds on target, usually you can make it work. It's not really about strength as much as about confidence and technique. However, it is difficult.
Do you have any tips for shooting this or anything?
Oh yeah.
I've never shot a shotgun, so.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mount the gun, right? Foot all the way out in the front, even more bladed than you normally are when you shoot a handgun.
Yep.
That way it kind of gives you way out front so you can lean into it.
My belly won't work.
When you lean into it, push that shoulder forward like this. Give something good for the recoil control, right? And you should be able to hold the gun without your support hand, right?
Okay.
You should be able to hold it right here. When you hold it right there, you want to pull into your shoulder while pulling. The push-pull method. So I am pulling in my shoulder with this hand, pulling out with the pump. When I fire, the first thing I want to do, as soon as the recoil impulse is coming up, I want to use that recoil impulse to pump all the way to the rear. Don't be worried about breaking it. It's a gun, it's not a toy. So make sure to slack it all the way to the rear, all the way forward. So, boom, slack, and reload.
Okay.
All right, so hold on before you fire. Push your shoulder forward like that. Feel that pocket.
Okay.
Right there. That's where you want it to sit. Hands grasp tightly around the stock. Pull in like this. Here, push here, pull the gun apart. Fire one round and rack it all the way to the rear and all the way forward. There you go. Yep.
Just like that?
Yep. Try it one more time. One more. Very good.
I'm not doing good at this whole pull apart thing.
What?
You did great.
I keep forgetting to pull it apart the whole time.
So one of the interesting things we just showed off there is that this is Bubba's first time ever shooting a shotgun. He landed all 5 rounds at 10 yards, and if this was a lethal altercation, it would have been lethal for him. That guy over there, I mean. Now, if you're a short lady, for example, like my wife's 5'2", she has good technique, but she can't overcome the short arm syndrome. And usually shotguns have a very long length of pull, the Mossberg included. Older shotguns have even longer lengths of pull because most people used to use more of a bladed stance. And with pump guns, you don't just have to keep your hand on the gun, you actually have to run the pump each round, right? So if you run the pump and you have the gun all the way out in front of you, sometimes your little baby arm can't reach out enough, or you're not strong enough to pull the pump all the way to the rear and all the way forward, and you might not even be able to work the gun.
Oh!
Ram it. You got it stuck? Which is where dry fire practice comes in and where going to the range comes in. If you have a gun like this and you're not sure if you can run it, buy 25 rounds of birdshot at Walmart, pop them in there and go out and practice. And the more you practice, the better you're gonna be at it, the better you're gonna be at soaking up that recoil, and the more confident you're gonna feel in case somebody busts into your house wanting to kill you, you can return the favor. If you don't feel confident you can run a 12 gauge, that's absolutely fine. Because again, the 9mm pistol is a formidable choice for home defense, and many experts, including Navy SEALs, Delta guys, all kinds of people have mentioned that they just use a 9mm handgun for home defense.
You came into the wrong house, I got a gun!
I think as long as you have a firearm and you are good with that firearm and that firearm is reliable, I think you're gonna be well off. I think you just get a gun like the P10C or the P10F, the Mossberg Maverick series, you buy a good bit of ammo, you learn your self-defense plan. I mean, honestly, you should have a plan in place for you and your family. You should have deterrence. You should have layered systems of security. Not just a handgun, not just a shotgun. You should have at least a couple of deadbolts. You should have an alarm system, and at the very least, I would recommend a dog. All of my life, I have had dogs in my house, and I have never had a single burglar. I went to school to be a police officer, and I have many friends who are cops, and I have many friends who are criminals. And I can tell you that one of the #1 things burglars always talk about is the fact that they avoid houses with dogs. A dog is an early warning system. B, it will take a chunk out of your ass. And I really appreciate dogs for self-defense because they work by themselves and they can alert you, and they're a deterrent before the people even come to your house. Having only a firearm for home defense is at least going to get you in court, whereas a dog barking might deter somebody from ever coming into your house in the first place. I would also look into motion lights and several other tiers of layer defense that can either deter them or slow them down enough for you to get your firearm in place, get in your strong point, and get ready. Now, again, make sure to always call 911, make sure to always follow your local laws. And again, I'm not giving you tactical advice, I'm just talking about the firearms and what I would suggest. So if you don't agree with me, that's absolutely fine. Put yours in the comment section below and let me know what your ideal home defense setup is. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.